So recently I was asked to give a comment on something that studies show over 30% of married men deal with. Though honestly, I think that number is way higher than what they're claiming it is. It's something I hear about from men all the time, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if I fully have the answer to this one. The question, why do men stay in sexless marriages? And in this video, I'm going to dive in and give my top 7 reasons why men stay and why in many cases it's the only choice they have. Let's get into it. Okay, as I said, sexless marriages are far more frequent than most people assume. And while, yes, there are some cases where it's the women who are frustrated, in reality, it's the men who are overwhelmingly the ones being starved of love, caring, and affection. And dealing with it is something most men really struggle with because, in the end, there is no good solution. And if he even brings it up, he knows there's going to be a price to be paid. It could be she'll cut him off even more. It almost assuredly is going to be she's going to find a way to turn around and blame him. You know, the classic, if you did more to help me around the house, or if you gave me what I need without a demand for sex first, I might, keyword might, be more willing. The funny thing, of course, being that no matter what a man does, no matter how much he does it, it never seems to be enough for her to no longer be exhausted or too stressed. Then, of course, there's the nuclear option that they just love to hit men with. The one that goes, stop pressuring me, stop trying to force me into something I don't want to do. Usually they're a bit more blunt than that, but you get the idea. They drop that little bomb because they know there's no way for a man to respond to it without coming across as an uncaring cad or even a rapist. That's the reality that these men face, and it's why the question of what should I do lands in my inbox constantly, like multiple times every single day. It's a never-ending parade of men asking, what should I do? Should I ride it out? Should I walk away? Should I cheat? Or should I just give up? And look, I get it. I know how frustrating it can be. But know this, if you're in this situation, you're not alone. The sad fact is, as I mentioned at the beginning, research shows that 30% of marriages today are sexless. And as I said earlier, I think that number is a drastic underestimate. Now, we're not talking about dry spells or going a few days here. We're talking about weeks, months, years, and in many cases, decades, without a scrap of attention or intimacy given. And for men, that creates some serious problems. Problems that people rarely want to talk about, mostly because they don't see it as a problem. I mean, who cares if the man isn't getting any? He's a man. Of course, they would never say the same thing when it's the woman being deprived. Oh, hell no. In fact, they'll go to great lengths to attack the man for failing to meet her needs. But the fact is, men's needs in a relationship get dismissed way too often. And when a man is stuck in a marriage without intimacy, it doesn't just hurt his ego. It chips away at his entire sense of self. And the effects are real, very real. Among them, low self-worth or self-esteem, depression, anger, withdrawal from relationships in general, physical health issues, including things like prostate problems, even an increased risk of cancer, and yes, of course, erectile dysfunction. And women know that, which is why, in my opinion, they do what they do. It's one of the biggest reasons they do it. It is the ultimate power trip for them, the ultimate means of control over a man's life. What better way to emasculate him and get him to hate himself, to feel lesser or unworthy? What better way to be in charge than to deny him not just what men need, but all human beings? And they do it not because something's wrong with him, but because it's the apex of boss bitchery. It's a way for them to destroy the man slowly because of the mental toll it takes when you feel unwanted and rejected over and over again by the one person who's supposed to be your partner. The one person who claims to love you and care about you, but obviously doesn't. So if you're in this situation and trying to decide what to do, let's walk through a few things you might want to consider. First up, denial. Look, I get it. Men generally like to think in the positive. It'll get better in time. It's just a phase. You know, the things we all tell ourselves. Many men get stuck in this because they want so desperately for things to change. So they'll tell themselves it will change. She'll come around one day. It'll get better when the kids are older, when she's less stressed, when this season of life passes. Well, I'm here to tell you, it never gets better. All right, maybe there's a 0.0000001% chance it will one day if she looks in the mirror and acknowledges what she's doing. But as we all know, women taking accountability for anything they do, well, let's just say you'd have a better chance of Sydney Sweeney showing up half naked at your front door with a billion-dollar winning lottery ticket between her flotation devices and a beer in each hand. Which is why, for a lot of guys, dare I say most of them, those years eventually turn into decades. Number 2 can be a tough one for men, which is religious or societal beliefs. You know, that old school vow for better or worse, till death do us part. Something men usually take very seriously, while women, well, it's not till death do us part, it's until I think I can get enough of a financial reward in the divorce, or I think Chad or Tyrone is going to want to settle down with me. And hey, I respect commitment. In fact, it's a cornerstone of my beliefs. You are only as good as your word, and let's face it, men are wired to honor their word, to tough it out, to provide and protect. But at what point does loyalty become self-destruction? When is enough sacrifice enough? Remember, gentlemen, the majority of women's answer to that is never. It's why they don't acknowledge or appreciate anything that we do. It's why they're always moving the goalposts and demanding more. It's why they play the game knowing that they're going to change the rules to suit them and ensure you can never win. Number 3 is a legitimate one, but one that can be easily overcome, and that's the fear that the grass won't be greener. I went through this one way back when my first wife was cheating on me. I convinced myself it was all my fault, mostly because that's what she kept telling me. It's something many men think to themselves. If she doesn't want me, no other woman will either. Or she'll just end up denying me like this one did. And I get it, because it's not entirely wrong. Honestly, with the way men's needs get dismissed today, it's not a completely unfounded fear. But men, you cannot live in fear. You just can't. Nothing good will ever come from that. Certainly not happiness, and certainly not peace. Yes, fear of the unknown is real, very real. But weigh that fear against the known that if you don't take on that fear, you're basically willing yourself into a lifetime of misery. On to number 4, which is another common one, resignation. The truth is, some men just accept it. They think it is what it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. They stop trying, stop caring, stop hoping. They resign themselves to a lifetime of unhappiness, and that, my friends, is a very dangerous place to be. In many cases, it leads to things like men trying to self-medicate with drugs or alcohol. It leads to living in resentment and self-hate. And sadly, far too often, it leads to men thinking there's only one way out, and it's a way you can never come back from, if you catch my drift. Don't do that. Just don't. Next up, number 5, and this one's going to shock a few of you. You're a victim of domestic violence and don't even know it. Primarily in the form of emotional or verbal abuse. And yes, it happens, and no one talks about it. Very, very few even consider it abuse when it happens to a man. Hell, a man getting beaten half to death physically isn't considered abuse, so why should this be? Yet it's a life of hell that many, many men end up living. There are countless men out there getting manipulated, gaslit, belittled, and emotionally starved in their own homes all day, every day. And they're never going to be counted. They're never going to show up in the statistics. They're never going to be able to escape that hell because, as I said, people don't consider that to be abuse when it's a woman doing it to a man. Instead, they'll claim he must have done something to deserve it. They'll try and justify it by excusing her and putting all of the blame on him. And men know that. They know they're not going to be believed. They know they're not going to get the slightest bit of caring, concern, or help. So they stay. And continue to stay because their abuser, the domestic violence industry itself, Indeed, all of society has made them feel like it's their fault. Put the blame entirely on them. Okay, the next one up is a toughie, and I'll agree and argue that it's the most legitimate of reasons, and the one that I think forces more men to stay in sexless, unloving marriages than anything else. And that is, of course, the kids. It is without a doubt the one I hear guys say the most, because men know the realities. Know that if they leave, they aren't going to just lose the house, their possessions, and a whole bunch of money, but their kids. They know that the minute they step out the door, they're going to immediately lose their status as a parent and instead become nothing more than a visitor. Men stay because they don't want to lose their kids or be labeled a bad guy or risk the family court machine chewing them up. And I get it. There is a lot at stake when the kids are involved. As I said, it's the one, let's call it excuse, that I do think is most valid, because the reality is you're basically stuck with one of two options. You can choose yourself and your happiness and lose your kids. Or you can stay, be miserable, but still be their dad. Look, either way, it's not good. Not good for either you as the man or your kids. But it is the reality that most men face.